Nothing's rolling.
Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
We're live.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
We are experiencing technical difficulties here. Our host, Dean Zachary, is somewhere out there.
He's locked out.
Trying to figure out how to join in. Pops is here. Hello, Pops. I guess I'm your host for a little while. My name is Scott, and
for a second.
we are Wednesday Wham, the Silverline crew, to be talking about, what was our title tonight?
Pops wanted to break in.
I want to help Dean get in here.
Okay.
Dean, when you click on the email that I sent you and you click on that link, you're going to get sent to the broadcast list. But the broadcast list is longer than the screen allows. You have to hit the load more button, go farther down to find the one with the little red live next to it, and then you can join us.
He'll get here. He's got it. We have faith in Dean.
My fault. Is everything about the way the show started, blame Pops.
That's right? We will. We will pillory you, and you will be mocked to scorn. Pops. So thank you for
we
all
blame
your
you
efforts.
for everything.
Everything, right? Well, folks, everybody out there, we appreciate you joining us. I was not prepared to launch the show here, so I'm going to babble on for just a moment and repeat. We're Wednesday Wham for Silverline, and that means it's Wednesday, and we're going to talk all things comics, pop culture, literature, and probably who knows where else our thought train will go. But the topic tonight, and before I get it wrong, I'm going to read it here. Superhero sunset, ? The decline in legacy superhero comic sales. We are going to discuss what's going on with superheroes in the comic book world. And I know Dean had tons of good things to say, so I'm going to stall for a little longer and introduce folks here. We've got Barb over here, who we've dubbed Empress of Inks, and I don't remember everybody else's nicknames. Rob Davis,
Paragon of Pencils.
there you go. That's great. Paragon of Pencils.
That's what he is. And
does
Aaron the Contrarian.
and
The
Aaron
Contrarian,
the Contrarian Harumphreys, and
Harumphreys, yes.
our resident grumbler who keeps us all humble and speaks his mind. And my name is Scott. I've introduced myself, and we want
You're
to
one
talk
of the
about.
wizards of wordplay.
Oh, I am a wizard of wordplay. Yes. Before we get too far, how's our Kickstarter looking? Have we checked on that lately? Everybody out there, we do
the
have.
other night. I think we were at like 1,600.
Okay, we've got a
1,800.
Kickstarter campaign going right now. We've got tons of great titles always growing. Silverline is always growing, and we would love if you went over to Kickstarter to check out the current campaign. We're finishing up the Twilight Grimm storyline, and we are.
That's been done for a while.
No.
That's been
Sorry.
done.
Friar Rush, and Cape
I
Town.
apologize.
Friar Rush, that's the
Grimm was
one.
finished.
Yeah.
Friar
And we're
Rush
at 1749. We need to hit 1800 to reach our goal.
Yeah,
We
so
can
we're
do
just
that.
And
right
then we will go for our stretch goals. We've got 4 days left.
We can do it. We can do it.
Yeah.
And if folks out there, if you're not familiar with stretch goals, everybody who backs the campaign, if we reach our goal and then we reach these stretch goals, that means everybody gets all the extra goodies. So we encourage you
even
all.
if you've just got a friend who wants to, encourage your friends to jump in. It'll help you too.
And
Everyone gets something.
Everybody gets all
stretch
extra
goals.
goodies.
I don't have any friends, Rob.
And you admit it? Yes.
Yeah, I do. I admit I don't have it. That's why I come on and talk to you guys.
Aaron, you can tell all your enemies, okay? To please back the campaign, grab those comics, and we have introduced a new title, Cape Town, and go check that out on Kickstarter to see what that is all about. So tonight, the conversation is what's going on with superhero comic books.
Did you? It's based on an article that was posted.
One article.
Did you read the article?
I read a couple. Which one? To which?
It was
do you
one.
refer?
It was. Let me see here.
It's the one I posted.
Yeah. Did you just
Yeah,
post
I
it?
actually saw it before it got posted.
The superhero comics are in a creative rut. Who, if anyone, will fly to the rescue?
Yeah,
by Rob Sakowicz.
That's the one. That's the one. Yep, it's
so
a great article.
He's got some questions about the economy, pandemic, people being home, people going back to work, people being laid off, the demographic going through this sort of recession, and what by the demographic, the reader demographic, I do mean generally middle-aged men. That is the biggest chunk of readership in the United States, and things are up and down this way and that way with the economy. So that's one of the reasons mentioned in the article. And blah, 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 blah. And anyways, so then Dean says to me,
oh yeah.
Dean's here. Dean, we got the ball rolling. I mumbled. The ball kind of started moving and creeping along, and we started talking about the article. I will refer to it once more. ICV2.com.
Yes.
By Rob Salkowitz. The title is "Superhero Comics Are in a Creative Rut. Who, if anyone, will fly to the rescue?" We will. Answer. There we go. We're done.
That's it. Yes,
We're
we
done.
will.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
All right,
Good night,
bye,
everybody.
everybody.
I'll show
Bye,
you.
everybody. We're going to fix
Good
it all. Sorry, I was late, everybody. StreamYard seems to be having trouble communicating with iPad. I think there were some admin errors and boring stuff from behind the scenes.
That's
But
okay.
that being said, I'm here, and we can begin by setting the table a little bit. What I wanted to talk about tonight was basically why the industry is having trouble selling superhero comics. But before we go there, I would be remiss if I didn't say the opening, wouldn't I? It just wouldn't be the same, right? So, creating beyond calculation, beyond politics, beyond the big two. Welcome, Silverliners, to the wonderful world of Wednesday Wham. We have with us a skeleton crew, but a strong crew nonetheless. We have Scott Wakefield. We have Aaron Humphreys. We have Barb Kailberg, the Empress of the Inks. We have Rob Davis, the Paragon of Pencils. Now it feels like a real show.
There you go. There we go.
Say
Now
that,
we
it
can
feels
do
like
it.
a real show.
Woo! Now,
Wow, man.
We're all
but
grooved
it's
now.
kind of exciting just coming in right there at the last minute to save the day. So, all right. So I did some research as well, not only in that article that you mentioned, but I also looked up the sales numbers. And again, when you look up sales numbers today, it's so focused on specific paradigms or specific structure. So it'll be like, graphic novels sold through clicks at bookstores, graphic novels sold through Diamond, graphic novels sold through Lunar, graphic novels sold through, whoever. So in essence, though, what I'm trying to get through looking at all the sites is a general feel. In graphic novels, the superhero books that are selling are old. They're like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. Okay, like that's in the top 10, right? Batman. I mean, there's nothing new here. And
I have
number
a theory on that.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin hardcover. It sold a whopping 8,000 units, according to this site. I'm at Comic Book Revolution, for those of you who are interested in looking this up. The Sandman Book 1, 3,000 units. Stranger Things graphic novel box set. I mean, when did Stranger Things come out, right? Fortnite, X Marvel, Zero War, Godzilla versus the Mighty Morphin Rangers, Batman Spawn. I mean, Watchmen. I mean, November 2022, Watchmen's in the top 10 graphic Batman: The Killing Joke is number 10. You're going,
wow,
talk about the
a million
80s?
years old. Yeah.
So anyway, what we're seeing here is just, oh boy, it's not good news for.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy for the mainstream superhero books, and things like Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, Spy X Family. I mean, all the manga stuff is killing us. So what I wanted to cover, after setting the table briefly there, a gloom and doom table as it appears, I think there's a silver lining that I want to get all your takes on. But in general, the idea is, what has happened? Why did it happen? Why does it keep happening? And what can we do to take advantage of the misalignment, miscalculation, short-sightedness, and down-out cowardice of the editorial of the mainstream publishers? So I'm just going to throw out and just get your idea. First of all, what happened? How did we get here? Does anybody have a thought on that? Maybe Aaron, do you have any thoughts on how did we get here?
Aaron's never liked superhero comics.
No,
I think
it's one of those things. Like I do have a few. I have my bookshelf is 4 shelves, and I think superhero books cover maybe 1 shelf and maybe part of it. So I just don't. I mean, there's a lot. That's such a multifaceted question. How did we get here?
How do we get here in terms of? I'll make it more specific. How did we get here in terms of where in the 90s, arguably,
we were going through the roof.
Right.
Well,
the dominant sales, the dominant books were superheroes.
We had up to the 90s, we had a very healthy book sales because we had interesting characters and interesting stories. And in the 90s, we had this huge influx of new characters that were new and exciting, Deadpool especially.
Right.
Since the 90s, I have been looking through all of the new characters that have come into being since the 90s, and there's maybe half a dozen that are stand out in the crowd. Shuri, Peter Quill,
Mm-hmm.
America Ferrera. Just very, very few. There are hundreds of new characters that have been created, but maybe half a dozen stand out in the crowd. We've tapped out. We've hit the bottom of the barrel. I mean, how many more characters can be invented that have interesting powers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've run the gamut, or whatever you want to call it.
Do you
Right.
think? Well,
Gamu, it's French.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's interesting. So you're thinking it's a running low on content problem. I have heard that. I've also heard that what they're doing is retreading too much. They're
too much. I mean,
yeah, they're doing what Hollywood. They're doing what Hollywood does in terms of, again, reimagining, rebranding, whatever euphemism you want to use, taking old ideas that were successful 40 years ago and trying to repackage them rather than moving forward and bringing in completely new and fresh ideas. Even though the basic machined ideas, the skeletal format of storytelling remains pretty much the same, whether you're doing inverted hero's journey, basic hero's journey, or variations of all the 7 so-called plots that one.
And there's an argument to be made that these hundreds of characters that have been introduced over the last 2 or 3 decades are just boring. One of them could be a breakout star if they just made them interesting.
But the other, I mean, I was going to jump in.
You're right. Go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying. I mean, of course, you're talking the ideas of superheroes themselves are not out, because I mean, you put them in movies or in video games, and they do well. So the concept of superheroes is not the point sometimes, because you take those concepts and put them in other media, they thrive. Movies, for instance. It's just the idea of comic books. I mean, growing up, the idea of reading a comic book, you wanted to go to that world. And now we've gone to the point we have virtual reality where you can actually go to that world, video games beyond. But I mean, when somebody creates a world where all your friends can come in and go online and play in that world, comics becomes kind of like outdated in concept. Not saying there will always be comic books. I mean, there will, but as my nephews, they never read comics, because why read a story about a world where I can go live in it with my friends?
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the number one killing a lot of media, even movies to a degree.
The internet is outpacing comics.
Well, it is. Well, because movies and video games are, one, they're interactive, and second, they don't take as much investment from the person. If you're reading a comic, you have to sit and invest time. You have to read it. There's an investment that trade. A movie, you sit there and stare at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so there's and inherently, I mean, even if you look at, like, I know this sounds stupid, weird analogy, but like, animals, they say every animal, like even a predatory animal will always scavenge if it can, because it's the lowest possible. You're putting out the lowest possible energy to get the most impact. The same thing with humans for entertainment in a weird way. The less they have to invest to get the entertainment, the more they're going to. And so if comic books take work and effort to put into it, to do it, it's not worth it just turning on the TV. Because, I mean, the comics, you have to either go to a library or go to a store, get them, bring them back, read them. The TV, I mean, it's in your living room. You just click it on. And it updates you in your living room.
We had the TV in the 90s, too, and we had this huge frenzy of creativity in the 90s.
Because the new content isn't coming to your house. See, that's...
Right.
The content and television and stuff is coming to your house. I mean, when I had to check for new stuff on Netflix on Friday, I don't have to go anywhere. I just click it on and it's updated. Same thing with video games. Most people buy online. And so,
you can get
of course,
any game instantly. You don't have to go to Walmart or anything to buy them. You don't have to get the discs. And compared to the 90s, compared to even 10 years ago, streaming, you can get any movie instantly. Any show. And content like shows in syndication, shows on network television. I mean, if I wanted to watch Star Trek, I didn't know what episode I was going to get in the middle of the week. There were 22 new episodes in a year, and that was it.
Only a certain time.
But that was the beginning of a decline. Yeah, and the you have to. So the question I have, and I didn't want to derail you too much, Aaron.
Yeah.
So I would want to ask about what examples, like Harry Potter takes effort to read. How
Right.
did that get in front of movies?
That's a question. Of course, Harry Potter. I mean, the original book came out when early 2000s. The internet was still there, but wasn't like it was now.
Yeah.
If you said, because I mean, besides Twilight books, when was the last big teenage book that you seen come out to streaming?
Maze Runner, all of the I can't think of his name.
Twilight.
No, he said Twilight. The mythology ones.
Percy Jackson.
Percy Jackson.
Yeah, Percy Jackson.
There are, but it's a rarity. I mean, it's just,
you're right.
I mean, there's
Now,
always going to be
here-
exceptions to the rule.
Of course. Now, and I want to touch off both of those. Barb mentioned content. Aaron mentioned, replacing technology, replacing
Well, the
the
other thing,
old-fashioned book.
I was going to add to that is like,
Yeah.
when I was a kid and when we're all kids growing up, I mean, I watched cartoons at a certain time. It's either Saturday morning
Sure.
or 2 hours after school or in the morning. What did I do for entertainment between those? It's usually soap operas, shows I didn't want to watch. So if I wanted to read a story about fantasy or adventure, the things that the cartoons were about, comics was the go-to. Escape, because I couldn't just turn on cartoons when I wanted to. I just couldn't, you had 24-hour Cartoon Network, you had cartoons, you had things on demand, you have all of this stuff. But back when I was a kid, between my television entertainment, there's not much going on. Video games were very hard, so they were meant to be played for short bursts, and then they were done. And they also, because of technology, couldn't look as real as a comic. They were still pixelized, so they didn't look as real. So there was fun, but it wasn't as real. So comics became a natural sort of escapism to those worlds between those time slots. You couldn't get it. Now with 24-hour, when people have taken those and ran with movies and video games, comic books unfortunately have become outdated as a means of escape because there's no downtime. There's no downtime to invest in comics to a lot of kids.
Yeah, and it's constant. It's constant.
Years
ago, I bought the Transformers on DVD, and we never had broadcast television in my house. My kids really, I mean, it was the beginning of Netflix and stuff. I put the DVDs in, and it goes to the commercial break, and after these messages, we'll be right back. But on the DVD, it goes instantly back to the show with that little 3-second recap. And my son says, "Why does it keep doing that?" He had no concept of the commercial break on Transformers. I said, well, years ago, Dean doesn't have host privileges tonight. We've taken that from him. He runs wild with his privileges. He just
tell you what,
roughshod
I'm
over
in
all
jail.
of us. He's a tyrant. Eric, it says a comic is an artifact. You touch it, you own it. It's personal way. Eric, I 1000% agree with you. Yes. And I will say, I don't know if my 17-year-old daughter buying CDs is an indication of any teenage trend because my kids are weird because of me, but she's buying CDs. She and her friends order CDs because, and I quote, I will paraphrase, she likes to have the thing. She likes to hold the CD rather than have a digital download.
That's why vinyl made such a resurgence.
Exactly. Yeah. She likes the liner notes. She likes the box set. She likes the special edition releases, all the K-pop garbage. But she loves it. So you're right. The question I think tonight, though, Dean, right? How do we get people to want those physical media? How do we get that into their hands? So sorry, Dean. I'm waiting for you to let him in. I will begrudgingly. Hello, Rory.
Hello.
Good to see you.
You too, I guess.
Nice to see you. Rory's here. Everybody, Rory's here.
Very nice. Okay, so
everybody starts dropping.
What I really do.
Bye.
Okay, so I'm gonna quote some numbers to you guys, just to sort of give you an idea where I'm going here. Jujutsu Kaisen. These are some sales numbers here. 12 million copies sold. Tokyo Revengers, 11 million copies sold. Spy X Family, 10,600,000 copies sold. One Piece, 10,000,003 sold. My Hero Academia, 5 million sold. So we're getting destroyed in sales numbers by manga. Now we've talked about the why and so forth before, But I think it's more interesting for this discussion to discuss. They are selling 2D, old-fashioned doodles on paper. Are selling in this crazy 2023, 21st century world of AI, Chat GPT, 24-hour streaming, 24-hour whatever, realistic video games that look like real life compared to what we were playing years ago. So they are selling. It can be done. I think one reason American superhero comics are on the ropes and almost gone, the reasons are part of what you guys have described. I'm going to add some reasons on top of that. I think that the cowardly approach to content in terms of chasing a demo rather than following creative instincts, creating interesting characters and worlds, building those worlds because the creators think it's cool and hoping that others share the cool factor of that has been abandoned for we've got to sell these copies. Hey, Brent. So the idea is we've got to sell. We've got it's a short-sighted, calculated view, so that's why I always say, beyond calculation, blah, blah. But that's again, the theme of the stream is beyond calculation. These people are addicted to their perceived calculation.
Dean, and Aaron touches on it too. I think we all agree. Yes. It's committee-based comics. Yes. If we're talking about comics, it's committee based. It's nothing great, and maybe to avoid anything awful, it just comes out as bland. It comes out as nothing special, and I think they water it down. To try to appeal to everyone, and I learned in any good writing book, right? Any they said you pick your reader. Yeah. Keep in mind your reader. Your reader is not men and women ages 2 to 902 who live on Earth. No, you pick your demographic, right? And part of the problem and I mentioned it just before you got on, Dean, the demographic for American comic books, American comic books, most of the time is men, preteen to now. I mean, they really
all the way to the end, all the way.
And that is just a statistical fact. Yeah, they have ruined. They take Wolverine's cigar away. They take the Thing's cigar away. They take the tough topics. Sure. They take the, and I'm not saying they have to stick with 1950s ideals, but they take the ideals away. They water down. You don't have relatable characters. You don't have a character you can you can hold on to. And they all become just a mushy mass of nothing that you care about.
Well, there's that, and I would liken it a bit to. If you took NFL football and you said, okay, it's not fair that you have to be so big and so tall and so strong to play NFL football. That's just not fair. So what we're going to do is we're going to change NFL football so that everybody can play, no matter what your skill level is. And it can't be tackle. It's got to be touch. Now, how many people are going to watch that? Very few, right? So using the sporting example helps, because it really illustrates that if you try to reformulate something that's a success, and arguably American NFL football has existed pretty much the way it always has since its inception, and it still commands an incredible audience even today, right? Even though I'm not a huge sports fan, but I've watched it my whole life, and I respect the ability of the people who can play at that level and the fact that it commands so much attention, right? So you take that template and you say, no, Dean, you would never change football to what you just described. It would kill it. And yet these people are guiding comic books, right? So my point being, let's make the point even clearer. Who cares if most comics were written for prepubescent boys having escapist fantasies who are living through their action hero character? Who cares? Why are we putting a value judgment on that? It's like, so what?
It's a fact. Right.
Little boys like to do what little boys like to do. Little girls like to do what little girls like to do. And this crossover, and nobody's making judgments about it. It's just like, you like this, I like that. So there seems to be some sort of pejorative perception now that, oh, well, if it's only aimed toward this, then, well, that's terrible. We need to change it. Why? Well, what's the problem with that? Now, anything can be a bad thing. People say, well, Dean, football, look at it. People get concussions. People are dying on the field. Yes, that's true. And yet, again, NFL football remains pretty much like it always has. It's played by what, 0.0001% of the population who can play at that athletic level. Now, is that exclusive? Does it include No, it doesn't. You have to be at that level to play at that level. So the argument then becomes, why are we adding a value judgment to something that is tailored and has succeeded for decades as its normal form? The reason Marvel has such a success in movies is because of the previous 50 years of prepubescent boys fantasy. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. That's why it works. Sorry.
It's a nostalgia buyer.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think it also goes deeper, because you made a point. Why is manga killing us?
Yeah.
Manga's killing us because, now I don't know how many facts to back this up, but it's just an experience what I've seen. They've tapped into the women's market. Now, women by nature are more inclined to read, it seems, than men. Men are visually based because we're hunters. So we are acute to see visual.
That's Harry Potter as well. That's what made Harry Potter great, was female
I have to read at least 2 hours a day.
Right. Most women read,
that sounds nice.
in their mind. And the majority of the manga that's being sold is sexually inclined to either love, romance, or sexually inclined. So they have tapped into a little bit of what turns women on, and a little bit of that female, and they've tapped this market that the American superhero and American comics have refused. That's all guys. I mean, women read American comics, yeah, sure, but by overall, it is geared towards men. And what have men done? They've moved on to video games and movies, because again, they moved on to the next stage of visuals. They moved on. Comics are not the visuals you want anymore.
Well,
now to be in the world and stuff. Now, a lot of girls play video games and stuff too, but men are visually acute. Women still, not as many older women play, video games or whatever. The younger demographic do. 50, if you go younger, it's like almost 40, 60 split.
Yeah, see, I don't play video games.
Right, but older. But you read.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Now, would you say you read more than watch TV?
I watch about 3 hours of TV a night when we have something on, and I read from 10 to midnight.
10 to midnight. Okay, so you probably
2 hours.
But you like to read.
But
most
you
men
like to read,
right.
Yeah.
Most men
that doesn't include what I read on catch up on my social media and stuff. That's like an hour or two every morning.
Oh yeah. Well, what I'm saying, like the girls I know, a lot of them will go read at night. They go read at night
for entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. My nephews are hooked on video games. They wouldn't even the idea of getting off to read something
is just an
it's
I got to read every night.
Basically, what's I think happened to the American comic market is we've lost the male audience to better technology. And the manga came over here and said, well, screw the males, let's tap into the women. Boom. And they hit it because women are more inclined to read, and they just took off.
Well, and at the same time, to a lesser effect, though, I want to reiterate my point. Comics became less and less appealing to men, and because I think they feminized a lot of it. They took away a lot of the masculine aspect of it, and I've got to maybe rub people the wrong way, changing the sexuality of some characters that have been around for 70 years.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
You're going to lose your reader. If my favorite guy is now suddenly very different, I'm not putting a value statement on it. I'm saying, why not just make another character that will appeal to that reader? Don't make me lose my character by making him or her
completely different. You know what?
Look at the idea of even almost punishment for liking certain things. If a male likes a certain power fantasy or certain females, I mean, they've talked about. I always find this entertaining. So I won't get into politics, but they will punish and put man, how dare you like girls bigger accoutrements, bigger butt. How dare you like that? You're sexist or whatever. And yet nobody says anything about all the women going to the Magic Mike shows. If they made a Magic Mike movie, if they made a Magic Mike movie that was about female strippers, that'd be on the news.
You'd be a
news.
I have been totally upfront with my fascination and with the male physique.
Yeah.
It was like I said, I've told the story a million
What
times.
I'm saying is there's nobody coming up and saying you're a bad person for liking that. And men get that
we're treated.
Yeah, we do.
The Twilight, the women in line just panting over what's his name with his shirt off, the wolf boy.
Oh, yeah.
And we have these 40, 50-year-old women going crazy over a teenage boy. Reverse the roles.
Yeah,
if it was over the girl, and we're all, I'm a 50-year-old man.
Right.
I'm here.
So back to Scott's point, you have comics doing that male power fantasy or whatever, and then like Scott said, they come in and change it to either make it, more, justified that you're not oogling women and it's not, all of that. And it's like, men are going to move, but you're making the men feel bad for liking something that's geared towards them in the first place. Yeah, they're going to leave, or they're going to come under. Or
they're going to go to something else, which you made.
Which exactly, yep. That it just makes it easier to go shoot guys in
games,
Call of Duty. Or
here's the thing. One of the most popular games on the PS5 right now, is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I'm going to use that because everybody kind of understands the Star Wars environment. Okay. The leading character is a young male, who's still a Jedi, and it's after the Purge. Jedi are being hunted, and he's got to survive through all these different environments and so on and so forth. Now, why did they do that? Why didn't they make the lead character a female? Because they know who their demo is, right? They're smart about that, right? So they're selling tons of those, and they're doing it very well, and they'll continue to do so. So my point is, when you start to put this is good, this is bad value judgments on content, on artistic content, you get into trouble because the market will tell you what people want. Listen to the market. Don't artificially sort of put, it's like I use football as an example. You try to turn football into an all-inclusive, I weigh 120 pounds and I still want to play. Sorry, you're going to get destroyed. The idea here is everything is open in art. Do your thing. Do what you love. Do your thing. Be free to do that. There shouldn't be any of this like, oh, but you can't do that. Sure you can. And I think the door that's been opened now with manga just destroying us as far as being competitive in the marketplace. I think people are going to have to step into that realm and say, you know what? I'm going to do what the manga guys are doing. I'm going to do what I think is cool. And if I have 100 people who like my stuff, fine. If I've got 1,000 people who like my stuff, fine. If I got 5,000 people who like my stuff, fine. If it's more, great. But if you're true to yourself, at least you're going to have something of value, because guess what? It's going to be genuine. It's going to be art. It's going to be your vision.
Okay. Speaking of something of value, genuine, artistic, Tommy says, great to see everybody. Was going to jump in, but
Tommy.
we got a full cast.
Tommy, Monty flyby.
We got two flyby. Tommy, we got two more squares
at the bottom
down there
here,
to do the whole Brady Bunch. We got.
Hey, Tommy.
Dean, if I may butt in,
please.
You know whose voice I have not heard in like 3 months is Brent Larson. He comes here, he sits here.
He does,
and we have so much going on. He doesn't have to talk right now. I just want everyone to be aware. If Brent goes, just let him speak, okay? Because wisdom will flow out. Okay, all right, never mind. I'm going to mute his mic. He's muted. Maybe
sometimes
next week.
Asthma, sometimes it's a respiratory infection. But whatever it is, it's going to be good. Brent, did you have some input on kind of where we are in this?
Yeah, Brent, do you have a thought?
I have a thought. I've had a few thoughts. And well, man, you guys got a lot going on. I will say this. It's weird how much the market is driven by things we don't quite understand. And I've railed on Marvel for trying to, make all their heroes women or not white guys. And everyone's leaving. and the same with DC, and their sales are sucking wind. And and the truth is, you know, they have the right to do whatever they want. And I can lament it, but really I'm going to vote with my money by quitting. And they're feeling that right now. And hopefully they're seeing all the manga sales and realizing, okay, there's something there that we can tap into. I'll say for me, like, I still love comic hero books. I like them if someone has something new to say. And it's pretty cool how often somebody has something new to say.
Yeah.
Even today. We've
Yeah.
had 70, 80 years of comic superhero
And people
stories
still
being
have
told. And yet
Yeah.
people still come up with a new angle on it, something fresh. And when we get to a point where this part of it, I have one thought that I want to bring up that's kind of
Rob has a thought.
a little bit.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
But only one thought. That's all you get time for.
Okay, thanks. I think we haven't addressed one issue that I think is very important in this whole discussion is delivery. How are comics being delivered?
Exactly.
I
Like
think
the
the
actual
delivery system
distribution?
is letting comics down. The distribution system. When you're talking about who comic book companies are really selling to, they're not selling to the customers. They're selling to the comic shop owners.
Right.
That's first. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's who they've been selling to for the last 30, 40 years now.
Yeah.
So that's one damper that you put on all of this. They're the folks that have focused so much on certain types of superhero stories that it's kind of put a whole damper on the whole thing. So that when something new and fresh like manga comes along, I think that kind of there's a new shiny object for me to see. So that's why it's getting all the people. It's let the distribution system that we have now has let comics down. Something should have been done in the last 15, 20 years to change how they're delivered to the customer. And I don't have the answer to what that should be, but they should be working on that. I think that's a big issue with this whole thing.
And how do you fight the monolith, the empire?
Yeah.
It's difficult. That's one huge. I mean, how does Silverline, how do any of the indies fight the billions of dollars?
It's like Roland said in a meeting we had not too long ago where he was trying to get into a comic book convention, and they said, "Well, do you have any books in Diamond?"
Right.
We don't at this point. So they go, "Well, we can't. You're not a real publisher until you're in previews." And I'm going, "Really?"
Well, that's,
you know,
there's still, you know what that is? You know what that is in my mind, Rob? That is still the lame attempt of the big two and of the gatekeepers to keep the gates.
Elitism.
Yeah, but I think that's part
yes.
and parcel of what I'm talking about is the delivery system we have now stifles a certain level of creativity, especially in superhero comics, because it's become so insular that the only thing that the actual customer is interested in is what's been done before. Oh, that works, so I'm going to buy it again.
But the market is spanking them for doing this, though. They're failing miserably, and they're still not learning from it yet. And
they're not. That's the problem. There's still that disconnect between the customer and the creator. That there has to be something done to help bring those two closer together. I'm not. I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
The first step would be for publishers to look more at what's succeeding in video games, who have arguably taken the former comic book loyal marketplace. They've now gone to the video game world.
Video games, I think you can't
look at those demos. Look at the craft, the characters, the settings, the environments, the quests that are set up in these best-selling video games, from Call of Duty to Skyrim to the hero ones. You know, Batman, Arkham Knight, Spider-Man. And look at those and go, they're selling like gangbusters as video games. I wonder if we went back to that in comic book form, what would happen? Well, Aaron, you might say, well, Dean, you can't do that again in comic books. Maybe you can't do the exact same thing again, but it's kind of like what gives me hope there is, a guitar is just a piece of wood with 6 strings, and a sound hole. But people have been doing unique, genuine songs in slightly different variations for as long as the guitar's been around. So it's not dead yet. It's just we're going
and there are only 12 notes.
Yeah.
No,
Really,
no, I
it's
think
still,
there's
and we're
octaves,
still
but there's
having
only
new
12
songs
notes.
that are awesome, right? I mean, there's
Oh, yeah.
still so the exciting side of this dilemma is that there are going to be new voices, and those voices just have to trust themselves. And I know it sounds like a dichotomy, but as a creator, I have to tell myself every day, don't worry about if it sells or not. Do not worry 1 minute if this sells or not. Do what you want to do and what you're excited about drawing, and whoever it draws, it will pull in. Because once I start the
but I also think
I'm going off the
right, going in with what Dean's saying too, in that same thought, also try to push the boundaries. I mean, like, look, I mean, manga. I mean, when I look at superhero comics, like, why do they bore me? Because it's usually a variation on what color cape the guy has.
Yeah.
But then you look at manga, and the guy has chainsaws coming out of his head.
Chainsaw Man.
I mean, there's like there is they are taking risks and doing something you've never seen. I mean, if you're in a convention and you saw Superman or you saw a guy with chainsaws, what would you stop and look at? The guy with the chainsaws,
which
obviously,
Superman?
because you've never seen
Depends on how
anything
good
like
that Superman
for a minute, I
costume
look
is,
at
but
Chainsaw
yeah.
Man and go, "What?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe look over at Superman and go, "Yeah, okay, that's still."
I mean,
cool."
my children's book character, the alien wildlife photographer, I had so many people stop when they read the title because they couldn't figure out, like, what? Like, the idea started dawning on them what this was.
Yeah.
Again, this is my biggest problem with superhero. You could do a lot of cool superhero things, but you can change the visuals. Not every superhero has to have a 6-pack ab.
Oh,
They don't need capes. They don't need tights. You can do amazing things with designs on them.
Twists on superheroes, like which one's the one on Amazon? The Boys? I've not watched
Boys.
it.
Yeah.
The Boys. It's a twist on it. Insanely popular, right? It's a twist
Another
on
one, Invincible.
Yes,
which
yeah.
I just started
Yeah.
reading
They're all
recently. That's a really
assholes.
good one.
And
they are all
Yeah.
assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The titles that seem to pop up now, correct me if I'm wrong. The titles that
You're
seem
wrong.
to thank you, Rory. I know that are the crazy titles, right? Within Batman, the one that everybody remembers, or something crazy happens, or it's the big moments. It's the one where they push the envelope, or something.
Are you talking about event? Like big events, like Batman versus Bat, Superman dies. All
Killing Joke.
Killing
Killing
the ones
Joke,
that
yeah.
everybody goes back to, and I get you can't always do that.
You can't always do that.
That's storytelling.
I've got an idea. Let's.
Oh
just
wait,
take,
I'm sorry. We have a Facebook user. Morning. Don't know where on the planet
Facebook
you
user.
are. It's
Morning.
evening on the eastern end of our continent.
Yeah.
So and well, I don't know. Sun's setting there for Aaron over there at the other coast.
It's dark behind me as well. Yeah.
Looking that way by that ocean. Okay, so Facebook user, thank you for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. I think the main point we should think about is let's do the best comics that we can do, and do the opposite of what the cowardly calculators are doing in trying to figure out what's going to sell. Just do what you want to do and do it very well, and the audience will find us.
That's what happened at Marvel with Fantastic Four and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It was stuff
They
that
just found
Stan and Jack were interested in doing. So suddenly it started selling well. It was,
and you know,
it was because Marvel was collapsing around them.
Yeah.
So maybe if it starts to collapse, something will happen. Let's hope
there's
someone with
Dean,
a
you
creative
said,
spark.
And you guys are saying make what you want, and if it doesn't sell, so be it. If you're fine with that, if your goal is to sell, readjust. Okay, title number 1. I got 7 readers. I'm going to find out what's wrong with that. What's wrong with that? Title number 2, 25 readers. What was my change?
Yeah.
If your goal is to tell crazy, outrageous stories and have 10 readers, and you're just fat and happy with that, just do it. Do it, and do it as a hobby, or because comic books cost a lot of money to make. If you could, unless you can draw. If I could draw, my life would be so different. But if your goal is to sell, which is what we're talking about with the big guys, their goal is to make money. They have to pay their staff and keep the lights on. They have to adjust. So if your goal as an indie person is as an individual, readjust. Find your reader. Find your demographic, and maybe it's too narrow. Maybe your demographic is 22 to 26-year-old male amputees who live in the mid-Atlantic, and you may have to broaden, but or not. Tons of them.
It really comes down to
you could be their kid.
Publishers are interested in making content, and you've got to decide as a creator: are you interested in making content or making art? Because those are two different things.
Yes.
And you can do successful art. I'm not talking about some noble idea of being a starving artist and that's the way to go. I'm saying you can find that medium where you're doing what you love and it's selling. But there's a whole spectrum from one to the other. From being the complete fine artist that no one understands and thinks is a crazy genius like Aaron, or being, the complete sellout that the big two are doing where there's nothing new and they're just regurgitating the same pablum and calling it content. So along that spectrum, pick where you want to be and stick to it and do what you love to do. And this is the greatest time to do it because we can distribute it through the internet, and go directly to our fans. And, if Diamond becomes a part of that, then Diamond becomes a part of it. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I think if we could, I wish someone would set up a Diamond-like clearinghouse for a lot of different comics. I don't think anybody's been.
Great business opportunity for somebody who's got the guts to do it.
Yeah, how do you even start?
That's what I'm talking about in changing the distribution of comics. Is you would have access to web versions of the book, so you could see what it's like. And then you could sample it, and then you could either buy a hard copy or you could buy a digital copy of it.
Sure.
So I wish I had won the lottery because I'd give it a shot. I'd try to figure out some way to do it.
Anybody out there? Any millionaires?
Assemble a team in the barn and
comment
show.
below. Millionaires, please. All right, send us your millions.
Well,
we're looking for sugar daddies. So anytime you got,
I am still looking
for sugar mama.
Sugar mama.
If you are an old rich widow with a bad cough, my number is.
Contact Rory.
We are non-gender specific.
Anything. Millionaires of any flavor.
Want to be a silent partner on Silverline? Come talk to us.
Speaking of Silverline, does anybody have a Kickstarter going right now?
Nope, no Kickstarters.
Yes, we do.
Yes, Brent,
tell us, Brent.
Give us a quick update.
Yeah, we are $51 away from our goal.
Yes.
So I expect we'll make it. But it's for Cape Town #1 and
which looks like a really interesting book. It does.
I love the conclusion
the
of Friar Rush, and we just like we're talking about a twist on superheroes, right, Brent?
Yeah.
Cape Town.
Yeah, sort of. It's it's funny. I kind of wish I'd gotten in earlier in the conversation. I remember hearing way back in the day, if you want to do superheroes, don't do anything other than like Spider-Man or the Hulk, because nobody cares about superheroes except for the ones that are already popular. I don't think that's true anymore. I think the reason is this: superhero fans have matured. They want good stories, and the problem with Spider-Man and Batman and the rest, they can't ever die. They can't ever make decisions that are life-altering without being able to change them back. Most of their cast can't die either. So the stakes are they can change, but they can't really ever go up. So if you're going to tell a superhero story with new superheroes that nobody knows, that means they can theoretically die. their lives could be altered in huge ways. And that's kind of why I did Cape Town. I had some new ideas that I'd never seen in a comic before. And I was like, you know what? It would be fun to tell an adult story with adults who don't have cheesy dialogue and yet somehow wound up being superheroes anyway.
Golly gee,
I think I figured it out. So it's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
That does sound good.
Yeah,
I've always wanted.
I think it's a great idea.
And
Me
I would be more interested if the big guys did do even a 5-year chronological run where the characters aged and died, or something.
Babylon 5.
Yes, let them go through time, so you don't have to make up these weird.
Impressed the crap out of me because
or you got superheroes that face,
and the characters started out here and they ended up over here.
Characters have to face real life problems like dementia and cancer and stuff like that.
Let one of them die, and someone actually has to really take over their role because it's not 40 years of Captain America. Somebody gets old, and like they had to do in the movies. They had to do that in the movies because you can't keep Robert Downey Jr.
I don't read Eric Larson's Savage Dragon, but he did just that. He aged him in real time, and he aged out his son is now the Savage Dragon.
That's
I love that. He did that. Cerberus did that too. Cerberus did that.
All, that's great. Yeah.
Now the Simpsons now are 30 some years old. And their flashback episodes go back to like the early 2000s now, and not the 70s. And
well, the Christmas Story did that, right? With the grown.
Is that any good? Does anybody see it?
No, I didn't really.
I heard it was kind of.
Yeah,
it was dumb.
I heard it was meh.
Okay, dumb. Yeah, what a shame. Peter Billingsley, right? In Iron Man and Spider-Man
Far From Home
with Mysterio. Right? Yeah, right. He's the scientist that. Hey, there's crossover, right? There we go. Christmas Story to Iron Man.
Did you guys see A Christmas Story Christmas? They just launched at the end of last year, where he's an adult.
Yeah, that's what
we're talking about. Yeah.
Did you like it, Brad?
I liked it a lot.
Oh,
I didn't see it.
It's not classic feeling yet, but it was really weird to see Ralphie being a responsible dad.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool in itself,
Yeah.
What? I think we're going to go a little past our time. We started a little late, Dean. I didn't want to tell you what to do. And I love all the what are you watching, what are you reading question before we wrap up, because I like to know what. I just got into a TV show. It's been on for a little while. Manifest. Has anybody watched that?
No.
It's really good.
Is it?
Will Trent. I'm watching Will Trent.
The description
premise
is not attractive.
Yeah, my wife started and I thought this is kind of dumb. The premise is this plane goes through this weird whatever, and it's gone for 5 years. But
that's when they come back like a year later.
And so they take that premise and make it this great government espionage or government secret organizations going on. It's got some cheesy moments, television cheesy moments. There's the trope in movies or TVs where someone thinks someone is acting crazy, and the person accusing that person of acting crazy never gives that person the opportunity to explain, and then they just drop it. That drives me nuts when they can point to, but this, and this. They're like, no, you're acting crazy. Oh, you're right. Oh, just believe me. I hate that. There was a whole episode, and it was driving me crazy.
And yet you love this show. Is that what?
Yeah, I do. I've enjoyed it, and I've been looking forward to watching it. The characters are great. There's no one that's really annoying. There's always seems like every show has that one character that's just like drives you nuts. But anyways, Manifest has been my show on Netflix.
Okay, if you
Trafficked with Marina Zawa, I can't remember. Each episode she goes into like a criminal underground. It's a National Geographic show, so she investigates criminal underground, and it's funny because after watching all how the criminals work, she goes in and actually watches guys make meth and meth labs. I mean, she gets really into it. I'm like, good God, every single superhero is the most ineffective superhero I've ever seen. Because it's amazing. Because I'm like, this is like, okay, going back to it. If you want to invigorate superheroes, watch that series. And figure out new ways for superheroes to fight crime, because they're always fighting street crime. That's nothing. That's nothing. There are so many. I was thinking of so many cool stories of superheroes doing stuff just by watching them. I mean, they were talking about they have been cutting down the rainforest because they're mining gold down there now, right? You could have a superhero. I mean, what if you had superheroes doing jungle warfare?
Yeah.
On people cutting down the rainforest. I mean, you have do stuff with like the cartels. There. I mean, you could have them do, and I mean, there's lots of stuff, and you see Batman beating up criminals on the street, and I'm like, that's stupid. Watch Modern Crime, rewrite the crime stories. Because you think if Batman is a millionaire and he really wanted to fight crime, he wouldn't wear a cape. He would just systematically just take these people out financially.
Right.
It's unreal. I'm just like sitting there going, wow, this makes all the superheroes look like the dumbest people I have ever met, because they are literally beating up some guy robbing a bank.
Yeah,
and
they're living off the pulp era.
And it's like, dude, I was just watching the way these guys operate and do. I'm like,
watching Bruce Wayne sit at a computer for 22 pages.
Yeah,
might not be very visually exciting, but
I mean, you could do. I mean, they were talking about in one bit, strangely enough, not to get too much in the marijuana, even though it's legalized here, there's been a huge spike in illegal marijuana growth. Strangely enough, there were so many.
Even though it's legalized now.
Even though it's legalized, it is.
Even though it's legalized, yeah.
And they are actually growing marijuana farms on our national parks. They drop these guys in.
Oh yeah.
They're growing these farms in national parks, and they're sitting there with assault rifles, and the hikers have come upon these farms and meted with people with assault rifles. Now, imagine how cool if you had a Batman story where he's literally flying a plane and he does a halo jump, skydive straight into national park, and it's like running to the national park, getting it.
Yeah.
Dude, wouldn't you guys read that? Dude, I'd read the hell out of that.
And then
all
you
that
know
would have to happen is the
balloon
marijuana
hunter.
growers would have to shoot him
balloon
exactly
with a big revolver.
Yeah, I mean, you did that. They were transporting. They transport a lot of marijuana through semi trucks back and forth to the U.S. Take Fast and the Furious, mix that with the marijuana trucks, add the superheroes in the cars, take it down the marijuana trucks, a high speed chase. Dude, you guys.
It's amazing in Missouri how many trucks and vans are stopped on interstate highways for exceeding the speed limit, and they smell marijuana in it, and they stop them and they start looking inside, and there's all this marijuana in the van or the truck. Wouldn't it make sense to you if you're driving a truckload of marijuana, illegal stuff across the country? Wouldn't you observe the speed limit so you wouldn't get pulled over? I mean,
think about it this way. What if you had a superhero who was fighting the drug trade, and he had a dog? Because dogs smell out. I mean, think how cool that would be to have a superhero that have a dog that was also his sidekick or whatever, like a military. Like that would be cool. Anybody listening to this out there in internet land, take this stuff to heart. Go watch, research actual crimes done. There were so many stories in how crimes are done that you could write amazing, interesting superhero stories. Stop looking at pulp. Stop looking at crime from movies from the 20s. Stop. Go research and make modern stuff. You could do amazing stories and ideas.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I think it's weird that Aaron just got done telling everyone how to be a criminal, and Rob actually just gave pointers on how to move illegal drugs.
Right? Yeah.
That was actually in in how they were doing it. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm just
were in jail.
My hubby and I sit and watch 2020 every Friday night, and I'm always going, "What the hell? She's so stupid. Why didn't you just do this?"
Yeah.
I was doing that.
Yeah.
But thinking how, like, if you had think of how cool it would be to have the Batman family actually do, instead of doing a heist, did an entire elaborate Mission Impossible plan to stop a drug trafficking across America. How cool would that be? There's a story right there. Never
That's
been
the
done.
kind of stuff they should be doing.
Together?
That is absolutely that's absolutely right. Perfect.
I mean, you would have like Batman, everyone coordinating these elaborate plans to pull off this amazing, to nail these guys. I mean, you could be doing some amazing
stuff. That would take good writing and storytelling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, actually, we've talked about that problem. Is like why I don't write mystery novels or crime novels. Because the protagonist has to be really smart.
That's like a cross.
And I'm writing that protagonist, and I'm not that smart. So.
think of a cross between Batman Family and Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
but Aaron,
there's your elevator pitch right there.
Yeah.
That's your
elevator writing.
I want to see like a medieval Italian job.
Yeah,
Ooh.
exactly.
Ooh.
Like a medieval
But still
Napoleon,
with
like
minis
you
and
have
the
these
top
certain,
trays. Yes.
yeah, with the little cars or whatever. I mean,
Like just
yeah.
mini carriages.
Carts.
You're like, I'm just sitting there like, superheroes. You have 1,001 ideas you
Yeah.
can do. Stop getting your stories from comic books. Go look at the real world, just like any other writer. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
can do amazing work. I don't like to write superheroes.
And
Just
put
because of that
chainsaws
very
on their
reason.
heads.
Because of that very
Just
reason.
like the real world.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching. I'm not really in the Fast and Furious, but I always look at those car films. I'm like, how cool would this be if all these cars are variations on the Batmobile,
Yeah.
tracking down some sort of cartel? Now I had these gadgets, and all the Batmobiles were made to work together. That would be awesome.
Yeah. It
But
would
no
be.
one, you're never going to see
Like
that.
a Batmobile Voltron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Might
imagine
throw a
he has the
technopath in there.
Batplane. Robin
That'd be
can
a good
fly the
Iron Man.
Batplane, and then you can coordinate like somebody would, doing jumps out of it. I mean,
And the bat boat.
that would
Don't
be
forget the
amazing.
bat boat.
Yeah.
The Batmobile.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can make
Dark
all
spray.
his stuff cool again.
My
and stuff.
superhero would be a technopath with a team, and they just go around the country, and technopath can mess with the internet and everything,
Yeah.
get into everything.
Well,
Yeah,
and think
one
about
that
this
was like
new.
hacking and stuff. Yeah.
Think about this new AI stuff, Aaron.
Oh,
Right?
mhm.
So somebody
Have
creates
AI
an
writ it.
AI that takes over the
Yeah.
entire grid.
Oh, I thought you were
and
going to
then
say
Skynet.
just
Yeah.
have
Somebody
AI
has to-
write your story.
create a counter AI to battle the nefarious AI. Right?
Yeah, you could do all sorts
I mean,
of
there's just all sorts of stuff. You could.
Yeah,
You could
Airship
impersonate-
27 did a
I mean, you
book
can
on
impersonate
that,
a
written.
political figure and cause World War III because they would think, wow, this person just launched nukes, so we've got to counter launch nukes, right? So like
Right.
War Games, that old movie where the computer.
Would you like to play a game?
World War
Yeah.
II.
Would
Would you like to play a
like to
game?
play a game?
That's kind of like
Would you
scary
like
now,
to
you know,
play
especially.
a
So you go,
game?
okay,
Yeah.
there's a
But-
superhero story too.
Yeah,
you know?
you
somebody
can
did.
mix and match genres to make superhero stories, but I
Absolutely.
think that's what drew it out of me. It's like, well, Batman's beating up another criminal. You would think, and I'm just sitting there going, like, I started after watching these shows, I'm like, well, how many criminals actually do crime on streets anymore?
Well, yeah. You
Like,
should
I
know.
actually- Well, it's funny. I watched a documentary on real superheroes. You can find there's two movies. One movie that came out about real superheroes,
Uh-huh.
and they had there were these three people. I can't remember what they were called, and they had this girl roaming around the street at night, dressed seductively, hoping to get somebody to hit on her or whatever. So
Right.
the other guys who were zooming around could jump in. No
Mhm.
one showed up, and I'm like, well, yeah, because criminals are actually kind of smart
They're
sometimes.
kind of seeing that.
So
was too obvious.
yeah,
Yeah, a
and
little too obvious, right?
yeah, a little too obvious. It's like, so it's funny. It's, superheroes are that sort of fantasy, but you could do some stuff in
Yeah.
the comics that are I mean, I still thought Concrete was such a cool story. I mean, he gets this metal rock body and he's a
Yeah.
writer. So he would do feats of great, like swim the Atlantic by himself or climb, and then he'd write about it. It was such a cool concept. But what's
Yeah.
sad to me is that's the only example of that type of concept in comics.
Well, you got Sandman,
That's it.
which is kind of a fantasy, but is he a
Yeah.
superhero? Kind of. He's a super being.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
kind
Concrete,
of
it's just, I
Supernatural
think,
being, yeah.
yeah, I think you don't have to. I think so many people get so caught up in they have to have tights or whatever, and I
Sure.
just think you could. There's lots of stuff
Oh yeah.
that you could do and just mix genres together. I mean, look at
Yeah.
my Barbarian. All I did was mix Halloween and like Barbarians. I squished them together. That's it. It doesn't have to be these elaborate, amazing, detailed stories. Take two things you like that seem kind of weird, squish them together, and see what you come up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple
Good
as
advice
that.
to everybody. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing what I can come up with is our motto to close us out.
It's
Scott,
a line.
are you ready for the stream end, my friend?
You know what?
Yep.
I gotta wait. I gotta click that stream end Silverline thing, right, to make it play, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Right after we
Folks,
say
if there's a mess up, remember we blame
Pops.
Let's go with
Pops.
Pops. He's not
Oh,
here.
yeah, yeah. Can't defend himself.
we say
Make mine
mine-
Silverline.
Silverline.
I'm April Hunter. Make mine Silverline.
All right.